you're looking at our work, you see it. Look at the different levels of plant material and the soil, and you'll see even the grass in between the beds. So Grow Where You Are represents a collective of urban growers that are transitioning into peri-urban and even rural farmers. And to do that, we need to focus on the soil and on creating microclimates. Out here at Innerpeace Farm, we are so grateful to be in this partnership. And what has happened out here is that we have transformed a field into a farm with all the biodiversity that we've had back on our urban gardens in Atlanta, which means creating microclimates in different zones. So we want to give you a brief tour. You're going to see the radishes down here, hibiscus up top, and some grass in between the semi-permanent beds, which we opened up by tractor but have been remaking and planting by hand using the broad fork and the wheelbarrow, as we always have. We're going to transition down to the other side and we're going to watch how we evolved these 5 fields over 5 months. Come check a look. All right. You see there's a open space in between here. This is for driving the truck in, for driving the tractor in, loading and unloading, bringing in large bales of hay and straw. Come on and check this out. This here is the tomato trellis system that we tried this year for the first time. It was something that Nicole had done research on online. It was called the Trellis to Make You Jealous, an overhead trellis system with strings and tomato clips. As we've kept these tomatoes pruned, we've had longer fruiting on these tomatoes than we've had in a long time. And they just keep going. They've now outgrown the trellis, but we just keep clipping them and letting them do their thing. Clipping them at the bottom, you can see all this fruit that's happening on these plants, all this fruit that's happening. And then, come on and take a look in here. We mulched real heavy when we initially put these tomatoes in, and then we planted okra. 1 row of okra per bed. These beds are similar to the semi-permanent beds in section 1, but we didn't allow any of the grass to grow in between. We burned it when it first started to sprout, and then the shade of the okra creates a microclimate. The okras create a microclimate. They create shade all the way along their roots, and that allows it to stay weed-free and to conserve water on these hot, hot days.
We opened field 4 up as with the intention of cover cropping as well, and then having a watermelon and a squash patch. So what we've got here is watermelon mounds. You might be able to see the depth changes, like there's a mound here, a mound here, a mound here. We only weeded these once. We put straw down around them. You can see there's grass starting to grow on the edges, but we can only mow so far because we got these little vines coming in, and we got watermelons all in here. So hopefully we'll have a great harvest. And then this section is the cowpeas, which y'all might have already seen. This is about 8 rows of cowpeas. Right through here, they're already starting to produce. We weeded this twice. And when we finish harvesting these crops, we'll be able to create our permanent beds again. We eat a lot of winter squash, so we're really excited to have more land to grow on to produce more. And this year, the squash bugs were prolific, to say the least. We learned some lessons. For next year, we'll see if we can do better with them, but these squash bugs almost pretty much have killed off these plants. Were gorgeous, big, tall, beautiful squash plants. We do have some candy roasters forming down in here. I see some pumpkins. The ends of the plants are still alive, so we might be able to get something out. But if you look over here, you can see the mounds that we built. They're beautiful. We'll be able to plant something else in them this fall. There's a few plants that we planted a little bit later over here, and they're trying to make it. So we'll see, but you get some, you don't get some, and that's how it is.
We started growing out here in March, and we're now in August of 2021. So as we progressively made more sections that were all just grass or dirt, we decided to leave grass buffers in between as corridors for the tractor and for microorganisms and earthworms. And then in each section, we kind of changed our approach by changing what we planted and changing how the beds were made. In this section, we plowed up the beds or the soil, and we just kind of mounded up areas to plant sweet potatoes. We didn't make our traditional semi-permanent raised beds with mulched pathways. We just mounded the earth and then planted in the sweet potatoes, knowing that they'll take over the space, and then we'll be able to come back and pull these out, harvest them, and create the beds when we have more time in the cool season. 5 beds in 5 months. Well, not 5 beds, 5 zones in 5 months. This is almost like 5 individual farms. So now this is the 5th zone. We started out here doing zone 1 back in March. We are now in August, early August of 2021, and we began this at the end of July. We plowed this area up, and we took a slightly different approach, knowing that we were going to be planting in peas, field peas, sunflowers in the beginning, and in these 3 beds here, these 3 long rows, there's root crops that can be used as a cover crop to open up the ground, but also we'll be harvesting rutabaga, daikon radish, and parsnip. Then next we did a layer of broken down arbor mulch, so wood chip mulch that had been sitting for years and years and years. We have a connection at Arbor Serve. We dumped loads of it onto here and then came back through and tilled it in. And you can see we tilled that wood chip mulch into the red clay, and look at this color, look at the fluffiness, look at the moisture retention. We'll come back in here, cut lines in these beds, and we'll probably be planting alfalfa, maybe some milky oats, also some rye possibly, will be clover. All of these different things are gonna go in here and really soup this bed up so that we can then harvest it out or plow it in and plant down here onions, garlic, and let them overwinter down here. Come check out what we're doing, y'all. We're transitioning from urban growers to rural farmers, trying to keep the techniques, keep the philosophy, and keep the biodiversity. Focusing on soil. Grow where you are.